Yo, welcome back. We are up to currently the Guardians of Desire chapter 5 in our Berserk review. However, I want to go back really quickly because I feel a bit bad. We missed something at the end of the Guardians of Desire chapter 4. So, where we left off, before we even get started, hope everyone's having a nice start to their week. I don't know where everyone is watching this from, but I'm in Australia, and right now it is Monday. I've got work tonight, so I've got to leave for work soon. So this is like being recorded before going to work. So by the time you watch this, I will have recorded it the day beforehand. So I'll upload it on the Tuesday. But anyways, where we left off was seeing the God Hand, if you remember, and they were basically, this is when the Count got beaten by Guts, and he got transported through the Behelit, through the key, into this weird alternate reality place here, and Guts was just mangled on the floor, and they were kind of lording over him. But what we missed was, at the end of that, this, which we see Puck here, kind of looking on in awe at, well, she's there, so, he is there, I'm sorry, he is there, but, we see the townsfolk here looking up to the castle as a giant, like, wormhole above the castle, and I'm guessing that's the Behelit's transport into this alternate reality, which is connected to the human world. Anyways, it's not like it's necessary, but it kind of is a really cool, it's the scale and the impact and the power of the Behelit as well. I also kind of wonder what the purpose of it being alive is. I guess because it's alive. Was it alive before it was cursed? Became a cursed object by the demons? How does a Behelit even come into reality? I have a lot of questions around that. But anyways, so it's a fly. Anyways, onto this. And so this is the opening panel that we see. Let me try and get it in frame for you. Of chapter 5. And I just want to point out that when we get started, it's a very bleak and hopeless kind of feeling that we're left with when we see Guts here. Very bleak and hopeless because we see Guts kind of splayed out on the floor here. And we've got this, like, the main looking one here, this kind of, like, bird looking dude. I don't say bird, but, like, with, like, the kind of, like, the wings, and the cape looks like bat wings, more or less. And they've all got kind of that gothic kind of vibe to them. I mean, this woman here... Oh, I didn't realize her ass was sticking out, lol. But she's got the same bat kind of cape vibe going on. Maybe that's just the look of the more powerful demons. Maybe that's the God Hands, like that's what their outfits are. Maybe when you sign it, you get a cool outfit. But who knows? But anyways... Let's flick on to the next page here. Do you know what this actually reminds me of? I don't know if you guys have seen it, but I just started watching Jujutsu Kaisen. Really freaking cool. I've only seen up to, like, episode, 10 of season 1. But it reminds me of the Domain expansion, if you know what I'm talking about. It seems like that ultimate technique move here. Anyways, regardless, so we see the God Hand once again, looking absolutely cut. Like, this one looks so much stronger than the other ones. I don't know if that is the case, but that character looks a lot stronger. And then we see here Puck kind of reaffirm that is the God Hand. So Guts calls out the God Hand, and then we see... Puck reaffirming that they're the God Hand, but then Guts down here is looking up at this particular person and says, "Griffith!" And on the next panel, I think we are reaffirmed here that it does seem like a woman, just very feminine facial features. I'll zoom in for you. Very feminine facial features here. And Guts is shouting Griffith, absolutely screaming at this character. And she's just got this really smug look on her face. Like, if we go back to it again, very smug, very high and mighty, looking down on him. That's the immediate kind of imagery that we're left with, is she's just lording over him, and he's just in desperate agony. One, he knows their name, Griffith, so when he was hunting down the God Hand, I'm assuming he was particularly looking for this individual in hunting down the God Hand for whatever purpose. I'm assuming that it's because of Griffith. And we don't know who Griffith is yet or what their backstory is, but I'm intrigued to learn more about them. And Puck says, Griffith, who's Griffith? And then Guts is looking just absolutely in a rage, which I don't think we've seen him so angry before, which I find so intriguing. I mean, we'll flip back again just so you guys can have another look really quickly at the anger in his face. He just, we've never seen him that angry, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't recall seeing him that angry. Anyways, so we move on, and Griffith says, "Still squirming around in your pitiful existence, I see." And just this look of just disdain. Look at this look of disdain on Griffith's face. Just disgust. Already hate the character. Like, I cannot stand the arrogance, and like, we know Guts is emotionally stunted, but not necessarily a bad person, I think. And so for Guts to be so angry at this person, and for them to be so demeaning and talking shit, and a demon, all leads me to believe that Griffith is a piece of shit. I feel like we'll come to learn about this, but Griffith says, "Still squirming around in your pitiful existence, I see." And then Guts says, what did you say?" And then Griffith doesn't even respect Guts enough to even respond, and just looks away to the I should show you guys, sorry. And just they say that Griffith says, "Screwing around your existence," and then Guts says, "What did you say?" with this like look of how do I say it, just desperation, I would say. It's a very desperate look in his face. Desperate for validation, desperate for attention, just all around very, very depressing. It's a very depressing look. Like, he's just so desperate for that attention. Griffith looks away, doesn't even acknowledge him, and he says, "Wait." Griffith is looking at, the severed blob head. As we move on, really dope shot here. This is so cool. Sorry. There we go. Alright, I don't even need notes anymore. I'm not gonna lie. I think after like a few more pages of this, I stopped reading because I was like, nah, I'm gonna give you guys a live reaction to this, because I feel like this is kind of a lot of really cool stuff is unfolding here. So I'll let you know when we get to that point, so you guys can kind of follow. I'll read it in real time. And then, so this is such a cool imagery of these like powerful demons, the God Hand, looking over this weaker apostle. And so again, that's Griffith. We don't know who these guys are yet, but we know that that is the one who clearly Guts is hunting down for whatever reason. And ugly ass, fat head ass, potato head ass count on the floor here. Ooh. Excuse me. And so he's just like, moving on, sorry. So that's a really cool imagery of like the stronger God Hand, again, looking down on the weaker apostles. They view themselves as elevated so much better than anyone else. Anyways, so the count's head, half of his head, is on the ground twitching over here. And then this skeleton-looking one, the brain one that we identified earlier, says, "You who have been ordained by the law of casualty, your desperate desire for life has cleaved open space and brought us here." Initially, what we see, his eyes are sewn shut, something that we want to notice. So he's clearly maybe not a physical fighter, but he's more of like a seer, perhaps, like SWER. Like, he's more of a visage. He speaks, he talks the laws of the demon world, and he's more of like a bookkeeper in a way. Like, he's the one that knows all the rules of the demon world. He knows what rituals or sacrifices should take place when. Like, he's that kind of, he's like the bookkeeper of a library, right? The knowledge keeper, perhaps, if that makes sense. It's what it seems like anyways. So yeah, he says, "You have been ordained by the law of casualty, which I find really interesting. So the law of casualty. I want to know more on what like their law of casualty is and what that pertains to, because we don't know anything about that yet. It says your desperate desire for life has cleaved open space, which is fucking cool, and brought us here. So his cry for life brought the God Hand to him. So I guess you can, through the Behelit, you can summon the God Hand when you're... So to me, the God Hand are like the truth in the context of they are the ones that decide whether you can turn into a demon. They decide if your reasoning for becoming a demon is valid enough to warrant you becoming one. And they determine if what you have to do to get there as well. I feel like they are the law of that demon world, if that makes sense. So anyways, so they've been summoned, clearly, by the Count, and we see they're in shock. Puck and Teresia are in shock. Guts is angry, which again, we haven't seen him, I feel like, that angry ever. He's livid. And then we see the blob head, half of the blob head, shout out Archangel Void. So I'm guessing he is the Archangel Void, which is a really cool name. I don't know if it suits him, but like it's cool though. So he's Archangel Void, and he says, so he's calling out to him, and he shouts out, he says, avenge me upon him, please. Oh, wrong way around. Please grant my wish. Take that man's life. Avenge me unto him, please. And with his I don't know, the sewed eyes shut. I guess they really wanted us to take note of the eyeballs being sewn shut. He can't see shit, but he's just like, yup, he's a bitch. I can smell it on him. He doesn't even have a nose, but anyways, the Archangel Void decides, he says, down here, we can't do that. And then the blobhead says, what? Why? And then the woman here, excuse the nudity, by the way, she says, I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble for this on YouTube, but anyways, she says, your desire, which has cleaved open space, is nothing more than an over-attachment to life and a fear of death. It's not based on any personal hatred for that man, which realistically makes sense, because Guts hasn't done anything to warrant that hatred. He's literally just, he's fighting for his life, because he was... I mean, he puts himself in these situations, but what did he do to really put himself in a position to deserve to be almost killed by the Count? Really nothing. Like, what, he took Teresia hostage? Like, yeah, he was about to die. I feel like most people would do that to protect themselves in that circumstance, especially in the context of knowing that the Count would never hurt Teresia anyways, right? So it wasn't like Guts was going to kill her. He knew that she was safe, right? So anyways... And we know he's scared of death. Like, he was literally crying about not wanting to die. So, all of that is true. Which I find really interesting. Does that mean that they're watching the whole time? They're watching him this whole time through, like, a different plane of existence? Or does that mean... Is that one, option one? Or two, is it more that they can read his mind? Like, they can sense his feelings and like, oh no, you don't hate him. I think that's what it is. I think it's the second one. They just innately can tell that he doesn't hate... that Count doesn't hate Guts, and it's more of an attachment to life and a fear of death. Anyways, so then it goes, we have come hither to grant you your deepest desire, you who have been ordained by the law of casualty. They bring that up again. I want to know more. I want to know what that means. But that man, he's the one they call the Black Swordsman, the one who's destroyed so many apostles of the God Hand. You should consider him a hated enemy. Which makes sense, I think. He's using logic to defy their rationale as to why he should die, if that makes sense. So he put forward a valid argument. It's like, he's killed a lot of apostles, why not just kill him now? I mean, he's causing you trouble, right? And this is really interesting. Then the weird, ugly-ass onion head dude says, oh, I should show you the imagery down here. So, block that nudity out. So then that's them arguing there. And then up here, the onion head one says enemy, and she kind of chuckles, and he goes ho 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 ho. The Buddha looking one just starts chortling, starts laughing over here heartily, And Guts is like caught off guard by the fact that they're laughing at the Count referring to him as a hated enemy, which I believe Guts would assume that he's a hated enemy given the harm he's done to the apostles in the lead up to this moment. But he's caught off guard by their whimsical nature. I reckon they're pretty chill. They seem pretty funny. I'd hang out with them. They seem like a cool bunch of dudes. Have a beer, kick back, turn people into demons and shit. Nah. And then Griffith says, "A few worthless servants killed is inconsequential to us." Clearly, they are just all powerful and they can make apostles at a whim. And then Griffith says, "Black swordsman, you say?" Looking down on Guts. This is just the imagery that we're seeing. It's a disdain. It's a lack of respect. It's a lot more emotions in it. Clearly, there's so much emotion in it. Like, he's so resentful. He's so spiteful and hateful for whatever's happened. And Griffith just has no respect for him whatsoever. And no care for him either. I mean, clearly. I mean, they know each other, but there's no, Griffith's not giving off any feelings of worry or care or affection, obviously. Even if they knew each other or cared about each other at some point, at this moment, there's no attachment. At least on Griffith's side. On Guts, it looks like a painful hatred for whatever reason. Again, we don't know yet, but then we move on. And then Griffith says, "His petty existence is beneath our notice." Again, just utter disregard for him as a human and a life. Again, they don't care about humanity, right? They reject humanity to get to be a demon. So it makes sense, but also just the fucking disrespect, right? Like, he's so angry and so spiteful here. I don't blame him. The amount of disrespect he's copying right now, but he can't do anything. He's been beaten up in front of the God Hand. What's he gonna do? Nothing. And that's not gonna stop him from trying, though, because then what we see is him over here put his foot down, plants his foot. Puck's like in shock, and Griffith is looking down on him, watching him. He grabs his sword, hacks up some blood, and gets up like this. Look how cool this is. Just barely holding himself up. Again, spurred on by nothing but hatred. Look at this face. I want you to take a second. Not my face. This face. It is just like, there's no logical, rational reason for anyone to behave like this. This is just pure, unfiltered hatred, resentment, however you want to phrase it. There's just so much anger in this reaction here. Again, inconsequential looking down. It's the same thing before. Griffith is looking down on him, and Puck shouts out Guts. And they're all kind of like, the rest of the God Hand are in awe of Guts at this point. They're saying, "Magnificent. He can stand up with all those injuries. Fascinating. Such impressive willpower and fighting spirit." Which I'll show you the imagery here. It's all this page here. Right over here. They're saying, yeah, such tremendous willpower and fighting spirit. And then they're kind of smiling down here. They're kind of they don't take him all that serious. They're impressed by him as a human, but they're not threatened by him in any way, which is why they're laughing and they're smiling. They're all smiling. They're not like threatened by him. Anyways, the onion head one says, extreme hatred towards the God Hand extreme hatred towards the God Hand propping him up, towards Femto in particular. I'm guessing that's their name for Griffith. I'm gonna stick with Griffith because that's what Guts is. I'm assuming Griffith was that person's human name before turning into a demon. I'm gonna guess. I don't know the relationship that they had, Guts and Griffith, but Femto is their name for the demon. Anyways, who, after all, is responsible for marking him with the brand. So that's insane. Like, Griffith was the one that put the brand on him, which is such a fucked up thing to do in general. Like, that is so disgusting. And it makes me wonder what pushed him to that point. Like, what made Griffith mark Guts with the brand? Was that to get the demon powers? Was it like that part of the sacrifice? Was the brand of sacrifice was branding him so that Griffith could get all this power? Was that the trade-off? But I'm more intrigued in like what their relationship was to get for that to happen, for Guts to have that much hatred. I mean, there's so many questions. Anyways, so many questions. I'm sorry. So, and then that's all down here. So, he says, and yet how long will he last? That is referring to the brand, of course. And then Guts stands up the top, and Guts says, my petty existence, don't make me laugh. You're where you are now thanks to this petty existence. And thanks to me, who's fighting an army of the dead because of you, thanks to me, who's writhing around in my own blood. And, here, let me flip this over. I'm getting a little bit emotional already. Like, it's just fucked up. Hang on. It's just, oh, hi, Obi. It's my dad's dog again. I'll quickly show you guys. Obi. Hey. He's cute. Oh, sorry. It's probably quite loud for you guys. There we go. Oh god, the sun's coming through. It just makes me a bit emotional. Like it's, to do that to somebody, in any sense of taking power unto oneself at the sacrifice of someone else's existence. Like, you're dooming Guts to have to live a life of torment for the rest of his life so you can separate yourself from your humanity and have an elevated sense of power. Like, you put yourself above humans suddenly. It's fucked up. Anyways, so I'll show you guys. So, man, that's it there, where he says, again, my petty existence, don't make me laugh. You're where you are now, thanks to this petty existence. Thanks to me, who's fighting an army of the dead because of you. Thanks to me, who's writhing around in my own blood. And again, it's great imagery to see the power dynamic of Guts, who is struggling, and Griffith, who is at the peak, the pinnacle, with no harm, no damage, no anything, just straight power and arrogance, versus Guts, who is fighting to get revenge, like fighting an uphill battle, really, in a way, right? And then here, this is crazy imagery here, where Guts says, you stand there putting on airs like you're some kind of godly being, Griffith. I'll show you guys. And, yeah, so then that's just this absolute, god, this light is blinding, sorry. Yeah, this absolute disdain for what Griffith has done to Guts to put him in this position in the first place. It's so disgusting. And then Griffith replies with, yes, you're nothing but a squirming sacrificial offering. It's just so fucking disgusting. But anyways, it makes me so angry. I know it's a manga, but I'm just like seething reading this. And Guts is really taken aback with hearing that. It's so fucked up, man. It's so disgusting. And then Puck is flying around, and Puck asks what's happened between those two. I mean, again, that's what I'm wondering, what their history is together, for them to have, or for Guts to have such disdain. There's clearly something's happened, because Guts wouldn't be so hurt by Griffith's actions to put him in this position if there wasn't like such a betrayal behind it. I mean, sure, like, to be branded would suck balls, but it would suck even worse if you're betrayed by someone who you really cared about and who you thought cared about you, right? So anyways, Guts is charging up the staircase here, and we see here lunging towards Griffith, and then he suddenly stops and goes like I don't know how to do the voice for that. But then suddenly his brand blood starts shooting out of the brand from his neck here, and he's in absolute agony. Again, his face, I'll zoom in, just utter pain in his existence. And then Puck shouts, "Guts!" And Griffith says, "Fool, don't you know your brand responds to demon kind and causes you pain? For lesser demons, you might feel little more than a needle prick. But the greater the demon, the greater the response, increasing your pain without end. And if that demon is too great, the pain might even kill you." So this is the imagery again. In no way, shape or form being threatened, but again, arrogance, the absolute arrogance on... Hang on, sorry, 1 second. Sorry, my sister was coming through the door there, and I got distracted. I had to say hello to... Because I wanted to get back to this and make sure I was giving like good analysis of the manga rather than being distracted by what was happening over there. Anyways, so as I was saying, it's really cool, this explanation that we get around the brand. So now we understand that the brand is caused by... Let me show you the imagery while I'm talking. Now we understand that the brand is actually... It's basically just causes pain. So not only does it attract demons or undead to try and kill Guts, but what it is as well is it's also just something that's designed to cause pain. Like, it's literally meant to inflict you with pain. The bearer of the brand with pain, depending on the strength of the demon. So for a small demon or a weak demon, it's really nothing. But for a powerful demon like Griffith, clearly, it's agonizing and can literally kill you. So, which we see here with his eyes rolling back and his head, he's in that much pain. He's probably just going to pass out from the pain, right? Excuse me. And then Griffith says, "That's as far as you go," as he's kind of falling backwards down the stairs here. And then on the next page, we see Guts falling backwards, where Puck and Teresia shout, "Guts!" And then the other members of the God Hand say the Void says he's finished over here. And Guts catches himself. Griffith opens their eyes. He plants his foot. Guts plants his foot. And he swings a sword, screaming in rage at Griffith. And then what we see on the next panel is the members of the God Hand are like, "Oh, he's not done." And as Griffith is watching this happen, we zoom in on Griffith's eyes here, and what we see is Guts experiencing some kind of like force, some telekinetic force. So the Griffith didn't even move here, but Guts is thrown tremendously with a lot of power here, right? And Guts slams into the wall on the opposite side of this labyrinth, right? And he falls and smashes his head into the ground, with Puck kind of exclaiming in shock. And he literally he's face down on the ground, unconscious again. And he looks like he's unconscious at this point, right? And then again, the God Hand are bloviating or talking him up again. It's a selfless arrogance in like a way, in a weird way. Like, they're arrogant, but they're talking other people up because he's powerful for a human, but they're not threatened again. So they say, I'll show you in a second, but I'll read it. "What tremendous fighting spirit! The fact that he could even swing his sword amidst all that pain, incredible. I'm sure he's barely even conscious." And then the onion head is like, "And don't forget, his body is covered in wounds after his fight with the Count." And then she says, which she needs a bra. We need a GoFundMe to get a bra for this lady. She says, "If that boy became one of ours, I'd love it." And then the other big-headed, ugly-ass, Buddha-looking one says, "But he hasn't been ordained by the law of casualty, so he can't be among us. Besides, he's finished." So I'll show you the imagery here, with his head splattered on the ground. And then we see here that, like the God Hand again, they're just a selfless arrogance. They're like, well, they're selfish, but they're just arrogant. It's just pure, straight. Yeah, there's nothing more to say on that. Anyways, then we see Griffith looking down on Guts. Again, there's a very like similar imagery throughout this kind of chapter, right? And Puck shouts out, "Guts, with Griffith kind of looking down on him. And then Griffith looks at the head of the Count over here and says, "It seems I've unintentionally granted your wish, Count." And then the Count says, "Ah, I'm so grateful," with his kind of weird, ugly little smirk, as if he's done anything. He's weak as shit compared to anyone in this realm, aside from his daughter and Puck. But anyways, then we see the Void say, "Enough of the sideshow." Enough of the sideshow and all of the back show, dude. This woman needs underwear, a bra. It's like she just has no. There's no self-respect there. That's all I'm saying. Anyways, and then the Void says, "Enough of that sideshow. It's time for the invocation of doom," he says up here. He looks really cool, by the way. Awesome imagery. And I'm really curious, actually, side note, I'm really curious on the backstory of all of the God Hand. I want to know how they became like greater demons and how they became part of the God Hand, what their human lives were like, what led them to become demons. All super interesting. Anyways, and then the Infinite Void, or whatever the hell his name is, says, "Count, a sacrifice." So he needs to provide a sacrifice to go through with the invocation of doom, which we don't know what that is yet. But then the blob head says, for that you can use the Black Swordsman. And then Puck is like shocked at him going to use that. And then the God Hand says, specifically the Onion Head says, "Not good enough, Count." And then he says, "But why?" And the Buddha Head says, "That man has already been marked for sacrifice." So I'm guessing to go through with the invocation of doom, you have to mark someone with the brand of sacrifice. I'm assuming that's what it means to go through with the invocation of doom. Is that to like reincarnate or recreate yourself as a demon? I'm guessing that's what that is, right? So then the woman with no underwear says, "What's more, the boy is merely your enemy." She says, let me show you guys and I'll read it at the same time. "As a sacrificial offering for the invocation of doom, not just any lump of flesh and blood will do. It must be someone important to you, part of your soul, someone so close to you that it's almost like giving up a part of you." And then for me, the way that I perceive that, right? So the way that I perceive that, right, is like, that must mean then that Guts and Griffith were so close that they were almost inseparable. Maybe like maybe partners, maybe like lovers or something. How you could ever do that to someone who really truly loves you and cares about you is beyond anything I could ever fathom. Like I'm thinking about if I had to do that, I'm getting emotional. Oh, fuck. I'm getting emotional thinking about even doing that to, like, someone I care about. I could never, like, my sister, I could fucking never. That's making me emotional even. Anyways, that's fucked up. Let's move on. Anyways, so, so it says, then the Potato Head says, oh, fuck, I'm losing it now. Sorry. Then this guy, this God Hand, says, "By making such a sacrifice to demonkind, you'll be able to sever any last remnants of your own humanity." Then the Buddha here says, "A fissure in your heart will open up into which evil will surge." So it's just like you're literally severing all humanity by going through with the invocation of doom, which will then put the brand of sacrifice onto the person who you love more than anything. At which point, become a demon. You're a fucking piece of shit. I'm sorry, like, to get so angry about it, but like, if you're gonna do that to someone who you really care about, yeah. Anyways, then Puck says, "Giving up a part of yourself." Oh yeah, sorry. This is where I've read up to, by the way. Was the fissure in your heart? I read up to this page, so I was like, "This is getting insane. I'm gonna react to it in real time with you." So then, I haven't read this part yet. So Puck says, "Giving up part of yourself." Oh no. And then the half-head potato overlord says, "Then who?" And Griffith points at... Bro, no way, man. What the fuck? Dude, there's actually no way that would... No, I'm gonna be really fucking pissed off if they kill her. So Griffith points at. I'm actually in shock at. What the fuck? Anyways, so then Griffith points at Teresia and is saying, "Cut your lover's sunder, Count." So he's asking the Count better not do it. I swear to fucking God, man. If he does it, I'm gonna be so pissed off. If he kills his daughter, I'm just so fucking angry. This is so fucked up. She's crying out no, and she's crying. That's gonna make me upset. And then the Count says, "Wait, please. If it were anyone else, any other person, but my daughter Teresia." And then then Griffith says, "That's right. Any other person would be meaningless, Count." And then the onion head says, "Don't be so upset. Just do what you did last time." What? And then Teresia says, "Last time." I mean, I don't know what she means by that either. Onion head says, "My goodness, the little lady doesn't know what her father has done." And then, oh my fucking God. Yeah, what the fuck? Oh man, I'm legitimately fucking. What the fuck, man? The fucking mum. He literally did that to Teresia's mum. He killed her. It wasn't the fucking the heretics. It was the. Oh man. What the fuck? Man, this isn't fake. Like, this is real fucking shit. I'm actually. What the fuck? The mum. It was the mum. Anyway, I'm actually in shock. I'm so sorry. And then the fucking piece of shit Count says, "Stop, please. Not my daughter. Not that. Here's what happened." Oh, and the onion head shows like visions of the past, I'm guessing. Anyway, so okay, so we're flash back to the Count here. Wait, how much time have I got before I need to leave for work? Ooh, God, I need to leave very soon. Sorry. Flashback to the Count when he was a human, and he says, "Just open time and space for a little look-see." This is what the Count 7 years ago. A bit more trim, I might add. Yeah, much more trim than his big ugly blob version. So there he is, a bit more trim, and then he says, the blob says, "And it's you and your mother. Behold." Aw, her mum was really pretty. And then she's crying, saying, "Mother, a noble man and his beautiful, virtuous wife, a family, the very picture of happiness." "As it would seem," says the blob. And then it casts over to... Sorry, he's like scheming over here. He loves this drama. Actually, I'm still in shock at the fact that it's what I think it is, right? Anyways, so it casts over to Puck looking over at the poor Teresia. She's gone through so much fucking shit, man. I feel so sorry for her. And then the half blob head Count says, "Stop." And Guts is just looking. Oh, wow. Yeah, this is actually really powerful. This is really powerful imagery. Look at his face. He knows what's happened. He knows exactly what the fuck happened. Man, why do they have to do this to good people? The fucking Count's wife, there was nothing wrong with her by the sounds of it. She was beautiful, and Guts seems lovely too. The fact that this happened to these people is so heartbreaking to me. Anyways, at this time, the land was overrun by pagans. In an attempt to destroy the heretics, the Count hunted them down throughout his domain. So it was like overrun or destroyed by heretics. Hence, he was often away from the castle. But one day, exhausted from a long, harsh heretic hunting campaign, the Count rushed back to the arms of his beloved wife and daughter in order to soothe his soul. "Stop!" shouts the Count, and that's when it happened. "Stop!" Oh my gosh. Okay, so that's when him going on his heretic hunting mission here, and he's returning home, to the castle, and he's just coming back to see his wife, and that's when it happened, and he's just in so much agony at having to relive this and show it to Theresia. Oh my god. Okay. Everyone's in shock, as am I. If I get banned from YouTube, it was nice knowing you guys. Demonic orgy. If you guys want to pause and we'll have a closer look, you can, but I'm not going to stick around looking at that. We get the idea. It was an uncanny sight. In the midst of a strange stench and a wave of heat, a sea of flesh squirmed in a tangled mass. Towering above it all was the statue of a grotesque god with the head of a goat. And entwined around that god, as if clinging to it, was the figure of a woman writhing in ecstasy. Contorting her face with pleasure, it was the figure of the woman he loved above all else. Oh my god. She's for the streets. That's insane. Okay, so he just saw his wife getting fucked by a goat. God damn. Oh my god. If the neighbors heard me saying that, it doesn't matter at this point. Too late. What the fuck, bro? Sorry, let me show you. Look at this. Okay, so that's like everyone getting on with the goat. Look at this woman's face. She's loving it. That's her. She's the one on the goat. There's lots of other women, but she's the one on the goat. Oh, God, no. And then Theresia say, that's not true. It can't be true. Oh, my days, bro. So she is like, oh, my God. Now she knows her mum's a thought. With a goat? Oh, my God. Anyway, so then... Oh, God. No wonder the dad was trying to hide it from her. I'd fucking hide that shit. It's embarrassing as fuck. Anyways. Excuse me. And then so he's like shouting, Theresia. And he's distraught that she's seen it. He's kind of trying to protect her, really, from knowing the truth about his mum. He wanted to remember her for the good things about her mum. I'm guessing. Oh. And then we see in the vision that the God Hand is showing his utter rage in that moment. So what did he do? The count went into a blind rage. When he came out of it, not a single person was moving. Only heaps of flesh and blood lay scattered around. Damn. So he massacred them. Yeah, look at that. No, not gonna lie. Valid crash out. Like, it's so understandable. Anyways, so he crashed out. At that point, just divorce him. Hey, like, why are you sticking around? Anyways, and then there's just dead bodies everywhere. Then he walks up to her with a sword. Kind of crazy imagery here. Don't fuck with the potato count. And then she's in shock. Naked, by the way, might I add. And then Theresia says, she's like, no! The count raises his sword. And we see her, the mum, I'm assuming that's the mum, screaming out, crying. And he's crying as well with his arm raised and the sword raised. And what the fuck? She's got her arms up. But looking like assertive and triumphant. And he's bawling his eyes out. The Count's bawling his eyes out right now. This is a very confusing amalgamation of emotions. Leave a comment what you think about this, because I'm a little bit like, the hell? Then the God Hand, while referring to the vision, says, that's right, you couldn't do it. You couldn't cut away half of yourself. And seeing the triumphant, knowing smile of your betrayer drove you to the depths of despair. Ooh. Oh my god. So she's like smiling about this shit. She's like, she's going, yeah, what are you gonna do about it? Drove you to the depths of despair. He couldn't kill her, so he decided to end his own life to escape the despair. What the fuck? So he's actually not even a bad guy. not even a bad guy. And then it says, however, your despair itself was part of the circle of casualty. The Behelit was watching. You, the wailing of your soul, which could never be eased by the gods of this world, opened up a portal to another dimension. And you said, are you the gods or messages from hell? It makes no difference. Whatever you are, save me from my suffering. If you do, I'll give you anything. And we promised you that we would make you into a supernatural being who would never know sorrow and despair. Wow. So he literally, his despair opened up a portal through the Behelit to the God Hand. Such cool imagery. Look at this. That is so dope. And they're all looking down, you can see here. That's crazy. And then, yeah, you see here, they promise him no sorrow and despair, which is what he wants, right? Oh, I'm nearly out of record time. We've got 40 seconds left. Ooh, we're going to go through it quickly. So that's he's holding up the brand of sacrifice. Oh my God. And it literally turns him into a demon which devours her with the brand of sacrifice. So he brands her and then she dies. You indeed said it. I offer this woman for sacrifice. So he offered her for sacrifice. Okay, he's a bit of a bad guy then, because that's pretty fucked up. So you could transcend your very humanity with the brand. We shall grant you your burning desire. Oh, I've got 10 seconds left. Anyways, oh my God, sorry. Thank you for watching, but this is the end. Where like they're saying, do it now, like brand her. So is she gonna get branded? Is she not? We'll find out.